can sometimes be a productive process, but there are some groups out there with some sinister ulterior motives.
Everything was in the name of God, which just justified everything. He thought it was like God's will for them to send videotapes of themselves dancing.
Welcome to Watch Mojo's Top 5 Facts. Today we're counting down the 5 most fascinating, surprising, and frightening facts about the world of cults, which can loosely be described as a political or religious organization whose beliefs or practices are largely considered by the populace to be strange, deviant, or dangerous.
He was clearly an antisocial personality. He was superficial, he was glib, and he was very adaptable.
And when I got out, all your children would come to me because they never had anybody to tell them the truth.
Number 5. Cults often have one charismatic leader.
Is he the son of God?
I hope he is.
A confident person with a radical political or religious idea can appear to be quite attractive and even revolutionary to someone who's searching for a place to belong. And cult founders know this.
I've been involved in a number of cults, both as a leader and a follower. You have more fun as a follower, but you make more money as a leader.
This is why many of them actively seek out to recruit the lonely, angry, and disenfranchised.
People are extraordinarily vulnerable to being recruited by one of these people or one of these organizations during times of their life where they're in crisis.
Add in a propensity for deceit and manipulation, plus a thirst for power, and it becomes easy to imagine how a group of individuals who feel outcast from society could then find themselves enthralled by a powerful and opportunistic leader.
When I stand on the mountain and I say, do it, it gets done. If it don't get done, then I'll move on it. And that's the last thing in the world you want me to do.
Number 4. Cult leaders often use sex to control devotees. If the members of a cult believe that their leader is absolutely infallible, it goes without saying that an unscrupulous cult leader could then parlay that belief into just about anything they desire.
Sex was the thing that drove people. They didn't do any drugs, no alcohol. So sex was kind of the way to freedom.
Cases in point. The news reports that Branch Davidian leader David Koresh held multiple wives when overseeing his Waco compound during the early 90s, or the reports that Charles Manson's hippie followers were ordered into drug-fueled orgies with each other.
That night, we slept together, and I felt really loved by him almost immediately.
In Koresh's case, however, the impregnation of cult members by the cult leader made it even more difficult for scared mothers to escape for fear of harm coming to their children. Number 3. Cults don't let their members leave.
Which just reinforced the indoctrination that Satan was in the world, that Satan works through the ones you love the most.
Cults will do everything in their power to retain all their members. After all, if any of them left and spoke out against the cult in the media, this could make it more difficult for the leaders to maintain their power.
You have deeply ingrained in you to not trust anyone else.
For this reason, cults often collect all the damaging personal information they can about their members to use as blackmail should the need arise. Some cults may resort to physical violence, harassment, or smear campaigns in order to achieve vengeance or otherwise stop a member attempting to leave.
Window, and I can leave anytime I want, but I choose not to. I choose to stay here.
It can take prospective escapees months of careful, secretive planning to facilitate the first steps of severing ties from a cult.
It wasn't just like one day we were in and one day we were out, you know. It took some time for us to slowly break away.
Number 2. Cultists are often brainwashed.
In the moment, I thought I was doing the right thing.
You really thought you were doing it?
I did. I honestly did.
It takes more than just an idea and a smile for a potent cult leader to transition from outcast to supreme ruler. Sadly, many former cult members have reported rampant instances of brainwashing and indoctrination tactics. So much so that the victims of these tactics often have little to no memory about their lives prior to joining the cult. An example of these tactics include isolation, restraint, and bombarding them with visual or audio stimuli according to the cult's wishes. There are also less physical, though equally effective methods of brainwashing, which could include misleading media, verbal debasement, or aggressive rhetoric.
He gave a lecture about how God had made the Exorcist movie. And this movie was a prophecy of what would happen to you if you left the Unification Church.
Number 1. Cultists can be deprogrammed.
And the good news is it's reversible. It's a man-made mental illness.
Thankfully, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There have been countless reports of former cult members who've managed to escape the pervasive influence of their group and have gone on to lead healthy and successful lives.
that's what I was taught to believe in, and I believed it when I was there. And then I got to an age where I started questioning some things, and then it just got to a point where I ended up leaving.
The practice of forcing someone to abandon a certain set of beliefs, also known as deprogramming, can be a slippery slope, however, usually because it tends to involve the physical removal, which is to say kidnapping, of the intended target. An example of some of these techniques was the Backing Control Center, which deprogrammed fans of punk rock and heavy metal during the 1980s, and allegedly reprogrammed them with fundamentalist Christian beliefs. Nowadays, deprogramming has largely been replaced by a kinder, more passive strategy of exit counseling.
But empowering people of how to detect, legitimate, healthy individuals and groups and unhealthy ones.
So what do you think? Are you fascinated by the world of cults?
Yes.
Are you glad your parents didn't send you to be deprogrammed of your musical tastes? For more obsessive top 10s and eye-opening top 5s, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
When a promise has been made here, there is no turning back.
Well, that was interesting, no? So check it out. Yes, it's just a compilation of what we've been discussing, but simpler terms, which I obviously could not do. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little audio piece there. I thought it was interesting. So, we're back to satanic cults. Have you seen a picture of Anton LaVey? Wow, what a creepy looking dude. He could be, the devil's sidekick, for that matter, if you've never seen him. So what do you think of satanic cults and rituals? What comes to mind first? Probably human sacrifices, blood, the devil, and so on. What would you think if I told you that that perfect family that lives next door to you or in your neighborhood were Satanists? You think Satanists are those who live somewhere else, right? Yep. You associate Satanists with people who dress in black or part of the Illuminati groups like Freemasons, Skull and Bones, the Vatican, and so on. There were some people as 32nd degree Freemasons and did not engage in the satanic, in the Satanism, Freemasonry, and they don't even realize it exists. There was a book by Linda Stone called The Family Tree. It's a true account of multi-generational Satanism in America today. I'll put that in the chat later, the name of that book for you. And in that book, you learn a very important lesson. Satanism today is strong and very active. The media hides it from us and creates fake depictions of it with people like Charles Manson and Marilyn Manson. Yes, they are Satanists, but they're not your average Satanists. What's an average Satanist? The Bush family, our Illuminati, blue blood Satanists. Most people regard them as some of the greatest Christians around. If you try telling these people otherwise, they would probably not be your friend anymore. However, it is true. And this is a true, today they will defend the Bushes to their death, even though they have never met them or know them personally. Okay? So there you go. They are Illuminati. So there you go. Ha ha ha. Conspiracy theory, Ike. Okay. This is a true depiction of Satanists today. They have a day life and a night life. And many of them even have they may have a multiple personality disorder or identity disorder. What's this all mean? They have a main personality, and that's the one you see all the time, the nice Christian front. And there are others. There could be an assassin personality, young child personality, and so forth. It sounds bizarre, I know, but these satanic cults torture people and their children from a young age to split personalities and demonize them. And this book talks about a real-life account of a lady who married a Satanist and had no idea. She thought he was a hardcore Christian, and nothing said otherwise. And it's a journey you want to read about and not to live, believe me. Her children suffered terribly by having unimaginable things done to them. And only people in satanic cults can really think these things up. In the book, you will hear about her life journey and the things that happened to her. And later on in life, when her daughter was 17, she told her mom the rest of the story she didn't know. If you want to know about SRA, satanic ritual abuse, that goes on. She tells it. It is very explicit, and you may not be able to handle it. It is almost unbelievable what these satanic cults do. They do include torture and human sacrifices. And this is a book you should read. And in the book, it is disclosed that the satanic cults are connected on a global scale. So they are everywhere. You need to learn about these people. They will target you and your children as much as they will target Christians. They are a threat to all of us. It's called The Family Tree, a true account of multi-generational Satanism in America today. And it's a true account. It will blow your mind. Okay, they expose them, and you really need to read this. And if you've never seen a picture of Anton LaVey, look it up. He is one scary dude. He really is it. I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple real victims of SRA, satanic ritual abuse. And it's about Francis and Dan Keller and their daycare in Texas. That they had a daycare in their Texas home. And among the atrocities that they were supposed to have committed while running it, drowning and dismembering babies in front of children, killing dogs and cats, transporting them down to Mexico to be sexually abused by soldiers in the Mexican army, dressing as pumpkins and shooting children in the arms and legs, putting children into a pool with sharks that ate babies, putting blood in the children's Kool-Aid, cutting the arm or finger off a gorilla at a local park, and exhuming bodies at a cemetery, forcing the children to carry the bones. It was frankly unbelievable, except that people, most importantly a Texas jury, did believe the Kellers had committed most of these acts. In 1992, they were convicted of aggravated sexual assault on a child and each sentenced to 48 years in prison. The investigation took slightly more than a year, and the trial took only 6 days. So, after multiple efforts of appeals and 21 years in prison, the Kellers are finally free. Her daughter was waiting for her with a bag full of the first clothes that were in prison issued, that Fran Keller hadn't seen in years. And Dan, who turned 72 in prison, now walks with a cane. He was released on December 5th. They were divorced while in prison. And of course, they say they're innocent. And they were released after the doctor who testified that about this abuse retracted his testimony. And the judge believed they were denied the right to a fair trial, and their conviction should be overturned. That was crazy. They say it was literally a witch hunt. It was a modern day witch hunt, they said. But the Keller case is typical of the satanic ritual abuse and dozens of cases that popped up in media reports. And it started with a 3-year-old girl who was an infrequent visitor to the daycare during the summer of 91. That she had been spanked. And the little girl had said that Dan defecated on her head and raped her with a pen. And it went on and on like this. They made her smoke a cigarette, came to her house with a chainsaw and cut her dog Buffy until it bled. The case was, of course, turned over to the police.